Start spreading the new.
We interrupt our program to bring you this important message.
New York, I love you. I love New York.
Rose trying to get open, fires away. Bang! It's over! The Bulls win at the buzzer! Iguodala to Curry, back to Iguodala, up for the layup. Oh, blocked by James. LeBron James with the rejection. Puts up a three. Won't go. Rebound Bosh. Back out to Allen. His three-pointer. Bang!
What's going on, people? Welcome back to another episode of the Off the Ball podcast with me, your host, Chris LeBron, and it's draft season. You guys know how much I love the NBA draft, and we are here, and I got a special guest with me. You've probably seen him before on the pod. Me and him have go way. Man, it's crazy, right? Almost a half a decade plus, right?
Come on, man.
It's we're feeling old, right? I'm aging myself, right? But it's crazy. I always say this. It started off with an email. You emailed me. This is when we first started, fresh in the game, right? You know, fresh out the womb. And you hit me up. I said, let's do it. And we started talking, and then boom. You know, you've done some really dope stuff. You know, OTBM alumni too. You know, he was a big part of what we did over there, OTBN, you know, Off the Ball Network, you know, so always a pleasure to have my guy from the No Ceilings, you know, team, one of the best in the game for covering the NBA draft, my guy, Stephen Gillaspie. What's up, brother?
Man, heck of an introduction. They got me hyped, man. Like, Chris, I'm a part of No Ceilings, like, and I love my crew, right? Like, I'm just gonna put that out now. But OTBN,
I love your crew.
OTBN has a big place in my heart, man. Like I still follow you guys. Like I still listen to like each of y'all individually and all that. Like when I see it live, I'll catch them every time I can, and I leave little comments and little hearts, and I love yous in there. Like it's a good feeling to be back, man. And tell the people, like, as soon as you hit me up and was like, hey Stevie, you know, because you came on when I was doing a No Ceilings Discord. We were doing a live Q&A. You came on and chopped it up.
Yeah, I was on my break at work, and I was like, you know what? You guys are doing the audio stuff, and I was like, you know, let me go in and then chop it up. I want to talk some drafts, you know. Anytime I could find a time to listen to you guys, I'm always gonna, you know, even with the craziness of my schedule, always if I could find a little itty bitty time, I'm gonna find time to listen to you guys.
But you came on there and we chopped it up, and then like right after we you know ended the stream, and I had to run off because my kids were bursting down my door. You hit me up and was like, "Yo, Steve, you know, you come on the pod." And I think like as soon as I saw that, I was like, "Dude, I'm already there. Like, what are you waiting for? Let's go."
That's what I love, bro. And that's that. I know I can always count on you. And like I said, once I got on there, I was like, you know what? At that moment, I knew like I kind of had a good understanding of my schedule because I just started a new job, so I wanted to make sure everything's established there. I'm good, you know. So and I felt around that time, I was like, you know what, I'm get back to being more consistent because like I said, work's been crazy, so I haven't had as much time to pod. But now I finally found time, and I was like, you know what, I haven't done a podcast with someone talking about the draft yet. The draft's only 2 weeks away,
which is crazy for you by this time of year.
Which is, I'm usually by January I'm starting. Like I've written some articles for Knicks Fan TV talking about like second round picks and stuff, and people are like, yo, we're trying to get KD, and I was like, yeah, but the 50th pick in the draft. Come on, guys. You know, and they're like, what sleep. You know, sleeper pick. You know, he might
Warriors got Quentin Post like late second round last year, and he's played in playoffs this year.
And Tibbs isn't there and all, so you know he might he could play. These people could play now. So
never know.
So like I said, I'm gonna go full board with the draft a few weeks ago. But like I said, always a pleasure to have you on, brother. Like I said, great stuff you guys do over No Ceiling. You guys just dropped your new draft guide, which is you guys. Yep. Kudos to you guys. The work you guys put into that is. I got to give you a round of applause for that because you guys absolutely kill it with all. And it's I always say this about you guys different is it's the aesthetic. It's the way it looks, like it catches your eye. So not only do you put great information, and good information, not just nonsense that like, what is that? What does that mean? You guys put good information and then it just looks good. It just like it's gonna attract the eye, even to someone who maybe doesn't even care about the draft, but they're like, you know what? Hey, this. Oh, okay, I read this. So you guys do a good job, Corey, and all you guys do great work. But man, let's talk about the draft. All right. It's like a few weeks away. And I wanted to talk about this subject because this is obviously we came into this draft thinking this might be, you might get a star in like the end of the first round. That's how deep this draft we thought. And obviously we knew from the top, even from the beginning of last year, we knew about Cooper Flag, right? We know about Dylan Harper. We know about VJ Edgecombe. We know about Ace Bailey. We know about Tripp. We knew about those guys, but it was like, no, you can get some maybe an all-star level player, maybe in the teens, maybe in the 20s. Now that the guys with NIL and stuff, the names of there's not as many big names especially at that end of that first round. So and obviously with NIL, it's changed the game, right? Like guys that get like when we started doing this it's crazy. When we started doing NBA draft stuff, Steven, this wasn't even thought about. Right.
Every time you say that, it makes me feel older than I feel like I should feel.
2020 feels like it was decades ago. Decades ago. We spent 8 months talking about Obi Toppin and stuff, and it's crazy, and I fell in love with Killian Hayes, and I can't stand. Oh, it pains my heart.
I didn't fall for it, Kevin O'Connor. I didn't fall for it. Just saying.
I blame him. He made me drink.
I had Obi, I think, like first or second on my board, though. So, we all have
a lot of people made a lot of mistakes.
I did have Halliburton in my top 4. I had Halliburton.
You know what's crazy? All right, I'm glad you brought that up because every time people talk about it, I always bring you up because I'm like, I know my guy Steve, and I had him high, but not as high as you. I had him like 10 or something. But I was like, yo, my guy Steven had him top 4. They're like, really?
I almost had him over LaMelo because I had LaMelo 3rd and then I had Halliburton and I think I was on the Which Carolina podcast and I was talking with Lee about it. And I was like, dude, like I almost want to put Tyrese on here, but LaMelo's got like the pedigree and like all this other stuff. And there's some legit questions around Halliburton. That's why obviously he fell where he fell. I was like, man, I could really be talking into him being top 3.
Yeah, and I was pushing for him to come to the Knicks because that was at that point we didn't have a point guard, and we were still we were desperately I think at that point we got Kemba Walker or whatever, and it was like the last legs of Kemba Walker and stuff. I was like, can we just get a point guard, please? And we got ours eventually, but but the NIL. It's a big thing, right? And obviously, you can talk hours about NIL and whether it's good or bad. You know how it goes with that. That's a very controversial topic with some people. But obviously, as we've seen, like I mentioned before, we thought this class was going to be loaded where even second round picks, late first round, you might get a really good player. Now it seems like it's, the crop as obviously feels, and guys are taking the bet, and good for them. Guys, again, some of the numbers, Steven, are insane. Insane, some of these guys' numbers. So for you, like, how much did that affect some like your evaluation? Because I'm sure, like, and we talked about this before we went on. Like every hour felt like, well, this guy's taking his name out, this guy's taking out. So how much did that affect your draft evaluation? Preparing for everything.
Man, it's crazy because you have to prepare like everybody's going to stay in, right? Yeah. Unless you get some like. Every once in a while, you get intel on a player, right? Like you get a heads up, like, hey, it might be leaning this way. And once you get that, it's like you still have to keep the player on the board because I won't lie, like I got intel that like it was looking like, Yaxel was going to stay in because he didn't commit until a certain point, and it looked like Michigan was going to move on from him. And I got that intel. It's like, okay. And then of course, talking with no ceilings about it. It's like, hey, this is what might be happening. But then the exact opposite happened, right? Because money is a powerful motivator, right? So
exactly.
you never know. But then when it drops, of course, man, like I'm even starting my prep for my player pool for next year, and I'm going back and looking at some of the names that are returning to college basketball, and it's like I had this dude in my first round. Like I had Tahad Pettiford really high.
Me too. I love Tahad. I loved him.
I loved him too. And then Boogie Flan was like kind of late first round range. He goes, JT Toppin. He pulled out early, right? But
who's not related to Obi Toppin, by the way.
Not related to Obi Toppin, so you can love
Somebody tried to convince me he was. I was like, no, trust me, I did the homework. He's not. They're like, no, he's related. I was like, no, they're not related.
He's not. But I had him early second. So you have all these and Yaxel, the guy we were just talking about, I had him late first, early second too. So once these players start pulling out, man, it heavily influences your board. Because then once that happened, I'm talking to people. I'm like, man, the back half of my second round, these priority undrafted players,
Yeah.
But with talking to people though, I talked to, I think Keith Smith was our last guest that we had on our show, and I talked to Kyle Boone from CBS Sports about this too. NBA teams, man, it feels like they're okay with this because it doesn't matter. Like Keith's exact words were, the NBA doesn't care if 300 players declare for the draft and then almost all of them go back in. They don't care, right? It makes the work a little bit easier on their front, and I don't know if the NBA would look to, like, during the next collective bargaining agreement, look to restructure these rookie scale contracts, because that's really what a lot of people are asking the questions about now. It's like, does the NBA need to step up so they can play these guys? It's like, no, like the NCAA is kind of the best developmental like pool the NBA has. So 100%. The NBA is okay with guys going back and developing and honing in their craft, and them making money is actually like a good like character test for these NBA teams too, with like, how do these dudes handle their money? What are they doing with it? Are they taking as much as they can regardless of the fit or where they end up playing, or are they smarter with it? Like Cooper Flagg could have had way more money, but he actually like kept the school in line too, right? And he cared about like where he was playing and the construct of his team. So it's impactful on a lot of different guards, but particularly the board, man. Like it zapped kind of like the middle of my draft board, which makes the work a little easier in some regard, but it also makes it more difficult depending on how sick you are with how many prospects you want to know, like who could be your undrafted free agents for some teams and stuff like that. But next year, I mean, that makes the class all the more interesting next year, right? Like we're talking about this year being zapped.
Oh yeah, next year is going to be loaded.
Next year is going to be loaded until the same thing happens, right? Or maybe it evens out. We don't know. We never know. Yeah. We act like we do, but we never do.
Yeah, and you made a good point with the NBA teams not really tripping out over this. Like, with the way the league is, it's so young, right? Like they're so like, we're talking about guys like reaching their potential, like their ceiling. You're talking about their ceiling. They're already at their ceiling and they're only 22, 23 years old. Like we're still like even Jason. Yeah. We're talking about SGA, SGA
26,
25, 20, even Tatum. Tatum feels like he's been in the league forever. And he's 27 years old. Like we talk about these guys and like, because we've seen him for so long. So I think the NBA is probably like, you know what, this is fine because we actually might get a more experienced player. We'll get a player that can actually play right away instead of being like, oh, well, this might take three years before we even get anything from him. No, this kid can play right now. He's 22, 21, 23. He could step in right now and help, plus, play 10, 15 minutes,
And college basketball is getting stronger too, because what are we seeing now, Chris? We're seeing like some top international prospects instead of playing overseas and not necessarily getting those same minutes because, those teams can get relegated down in competition and lose money. There's a lot of top international prospects that are looking to get some NIL money and learn American style ball so they improve their draft stock too. So it's a far-reaching kind of, creature, this NIL. Its tentacles are all over the place.
I mean, yes, I know that obviously the NIL, some people think it's absolutely absurd, with the money and stuff, but in a weird way, also it's helping college basketball because what do people talk about? Like, oh, I don't know who's on these teams anymore. The one and done era. I don't know who's on these teams. Well, now you're going to get to know who's on these teams. Now they may go somewhere else, but you've seen this person play for 3 to 4 years. He may have been on 3 or 4 teams, but you've seen him play, right?
He's been
he's
around,
got an established name, you know. So you're going to see guys from Auburn, Florida, those guys, be there for a while, you know. So that's the good part. So college basketball benefits this. I think the NBA in the long term, but like you said, you probably have guys who you probably gave undrafted grades, two-way contract grades, and now they're going to get bumped. Maybe they're in the top 40 now, top 45. I'm sure I looked at my thing and I'm like, oh God, that guy was like in the 70s for me. I think he might be top 45, just the way the board is falling. Like he might be a top 45.
Let me go watch some Eric Dixon film again, because this dude might get in the top 45, 50. You never know.
He benefits. There's a lot of guys that benefit from this, and and that kind of rolls into my next thing. Who has been the biggest beneficiary of all these guys going back? Because I could think, like you just said one name, and I like Eric Dixon, but my thing was like he's crazy efficient at all 3 levels, and he has range, but defensively. Not the great, and he's 24 years old, but that was before I still had those things, but as far as like, man, I don't know if he will get drafted because of that. And now with everyone gone, he might be. He might. I think he's going to get drafted now. So who are the names that you think benefit the most from everyone going back to school?
Yeah, he very well may. I'll throw out a name that is picking up a lot of steam. A lot of NBA teams like him. Like he might even get drafted higher than what some like draft outlets are putting. That's Kobe Brea out of Kentucky. He's about.
Corey did a thing on him. He had him on. He interviewed him. He's a lights out shooter.
Yeah, I mean he did, and Corey, had him on for his film session. This kid is. Like you talk about 90th percentiles in almost every shooting metric, right? Like this kid is just a laser, and he's got good size. And this was one of Keith Smith's favorite prospects when I had him on that he brought up, and it's because if NBA guys like Keith are looking at him, that lets you know that this guy's got some real momentum and possibility of really sticking, right? About 6'7", hyper efficient 3-point shooter, like over every season that he's ever played. Like, and we've seen him in multiple contexts now. We saw him play in Dayton with some really talented players, and now he played in an NBA friendly system with Kentucky. Now, the big thing is that his usage rate is like anemically low, which usage rate is sometimes a pretty strong indicator for like pro outcomes. But if you look at his responsibility, I mean, this dude was just a walking strap, as Corey would say. Like this dude hits everything all over the court, and he's getting like some early second, even some late first round buzz now. So obviously that doesn't happen if guys like Boogie Flan are staying in the draft, or Yaxel Lenneborg. You're probably looking at Kobe now as like a mid to late second round guy, potentially a New York Knick. Now I would be really surprised if we see his name get picked in a number that starts with a 4, like that's how high I think that he benefits from this. Now I'll give you another name too. Hanson Yang, talk
to me more about him, because he feels like he's one of the biggest risers. Like he had I think a lot of people worried about him, like his defensive stuff, and if he can translate to playing with American guys, and he seemed like he was one of the biggest winners of the combine.
Dude, I'll tell you, we have internal conversations about him at No Ceilings all the time, and I forget who else it was, but I know me and Corey were like, if he ended up being like one of the 20 best players in this class, it wouldn't be all that surprising, despite him not being ranked that high. Okay. Well, think about what works in the NBA, man. Like, and you know this, right? But just it's all oddities. It's not like we always say, like, this is a type of role, right, that everybody wants. But like the players who truly break out, like they're a special breed. And they're and look at who the top players in the NBA are now. Like SGA, mid first round pick. Tyrese Halliburton, mid first round pick. You don't pick those guys because you think they're going to be MVPs and like conference final contenders, right? But they grow into that because they have unique traits and abilities. And that's what made Hanson such a Jokic, second round pick. But And funnily enough, like there are some strong similarities between Yang and Jokic. I'm not sitting here telling you he'll be Jokic, but if you look
Of
at the
course,
pre-draft stuff around both of them,
yeah.
there's some weird similarities there. But
Okay.
the thing that made Hansen such a difficult scout is like, listen, everybody who scouts the draft knew who Hansen Yang was. Like everybody.
Yeah, I've
right?
heard of him. Yeah.
But what do you do with CBA standouts? And this is conversations that I've had is like, it was a little bit of this with the Thompson twins too in the Overtime Elite. Everyone hated the Overtime Elite when the Thompsons were there.
Yeah.
And they weren't like necessarily the most efficient. Or you look at what LaMelo Ball did when he was playing in Australia. He wasn't super efficient either. But what stands out on the film? There's unique traits. There's unique abilities that they have regardless of the competition. And I think that's what we should be looking at when we look at these players playing in unorthodox leagues, because Yang is obviously huge, yes, for the CBA, but he's a huge individual just like for like planet Earth still too. So like he's going to be big in the NBA too, right? But also his processing, the way that he can see the floor and the way that he can pass, like there is always room in the NBA for a big man who can be efficient, who he might project a long term as a 3-point shooter. But then there's also the thing that like the offense can flow through him. And if you're going to be a big man in today's NBA, the offense has to flow through you or your role is going to be incredibly limited. The floor can be scary, but the ceiling can also be like super duper high with a guy like Hansen Yang, who isn't really getting talked about like that because he's just not as a known of a commodity. And the last name I'll give you as like a player who's benefiting, Yannick Conan Niederhauser out of Penn State.
He's another winner.
And he looked good in the combine just like Hansen Yang did. He reminds me, dude, of like, what if Hassan Whiteside was a little bit more buttoned up? You know what I mean? Like he gives me a lot of Hassan Whiteside vibes because he does jump at almost everything he sees, but he has like freak traits. He did average 12 points per game despite having a limited like offensive ability. So you can look at that as like, okay, the role is simple, or you can look at it as like he's still figuring stuff out and he averaged 12 points per game. But he's going to rebound crazy good. He's a big, strong body. He's going to set screens well. And he's going to be a heck of a crazy rim deterrent too. And like there's conversations about him now being a late first round pick, which otherwise, if more of these top names stayed in, I don't think you see that happen.
Yeah, and like I said, he might be the biggest winner out of those three. I think with Kobe Bryant, like I thought I was about to do some stuff for Knicks Fan TV and put him as someone the Knicks should be targeting, and now I'm like, I think he might get a big bump because, like you said, elite shooter. And what do teams want? They want shooters. And now with everyone, bowing out and going back, I think he's definitely one of the biggest winners.
He's making noise at the right time.
Yeah, exactly, 100%. And but Niederhauser, like he's the one that I think everybody wants those. And like we're seeing a little bit of a comeback with we saw a lot of two big lineups. I see my Knicks, they insert Mitchell Robinson to go with Cat. And we've seen Cat with Gobert. We've seen multiple. We saw a lot of teams do it. We see with OKC with Hardenstein and Chet. So we're seeing a lot of that. So guys like that, teams want those rim running bigs. And so I think he definitely benefits. So and like you mentioned with Yang, he's someone that I knew of, didn't know much of, didn't know how much he can translate, but a lot of the physical tests he did at the combine, they were like, yeah, he's actually did pretty well. We did a lot better. I forgot one of you guys had talked about it. I was like, okay. And then I started reading up. I was like, okay. And he did the scrimmages. He performed really well in scrimmages.
He defended out in space. He blocked a Sion James 3-pointer, like defending him out on the perimeter. And it's like, okay, like there's got to be something here. Like even if it's like rotational big, like as a ceiling, there's something there,
Someone's going to take a chance on him, especially like you said, with all these guys bowing out, someone's going to take a chance on him. And just, you never know. Hey, somebody took a chance on Nikola Jokic. It worked out pretty well.
Worked out all right. Yeah.
It worked out pretty well,
I would say so.
Yeah, he's been absolutely tremendous. This show is also brought to you by SeatGeek. SeatGeek, your number one place for all your ticket needs. Make sure to use the promo code OTB Ball for $20 off your first purchase at SeatGeek.com. Make sure to download the app or go on the web browser. And tickets going up. You use any money off, right? New York Knicks tickets. You got to sell a kidney to get in the garden. So for any future, it's crazy, man. Stevens, it's crazy, the tickets, man. I was just looking and my eyes hurt. Just looking at those, even finals tickets. I was just browsing, not that I had any thought of going, but I was like, oh, wow. Yeah. So anything helps if you need tickets, anything you want to go to. Use promo code OTB Ball for $20 off your first purchase at SeatGeek.com. But all right, Steven, I know the Knicks don't have their first round pick because they traded 87 picks to get Mikal Bridges. I'm still upset about that, but I've trying to get over that still. But they were supposed to have 2 second round picks, but one essentially they got for Brunson, if you want to say it that way, in tampering. I always say, well worth it. If a second round pick was what it was well worth it to get Jalen Brunson, all NBA type of player. So it was worth it. But it's a new era for the Knicks. We don't know who the head coach is yet for the Knicks, but Tom Thibodeau is no longer the head coach. He was let go a few days ago. And I am a Tibbs guy, and there's not a lot of Knicks fans who are Tibbs guy, but I was. But I understood why they let go of him. His lack of development of the young players, the lack of trust. I think more of that he didn't have. So I think whoever the new coach is, we're going to see. We're going to see them use the guys they drafted.
I feel about Jason Kidd. There's a lot of smoke behind that right now.
You know what?
Not to derail the draft podcast, but
no. And this is the thing. The Jason Kidd stuff. My thing is, I'm all whoever the coach I want, whoever they coaches, if they believe that they can develop the guys off the bench, the young guys come up, the guys they drafted last year, and Kolek and Pacome and McCullers and Huck. That's the coach I want, because those guys may be the difference between us being back, going to an NBA Finals or having the same fate. Because Indiana, I think we have more better talent than Indiana, but why Indiana is in the finals and we are not is because they trusted their bench and the development of those guys, the development of Naismith, getting him from Boston when he wasn't getting used right, developing him prop. Obviously, Halliburton, his development was key. Nembhard, second round pick, developing him properly. That was the key. And I felt like if we do that, we could be on our way to get, especially with the way the East is, it's wide open. Boston is, we know they're going to go through their stuff with their apron stuff, and Tatum with the Achilles.
Giannis might not be there.
So we'll see. So whoever they can get that can develop those guys and bring some more modernization to the offense. Tibbs is an old school coach. He's in his old ways. But one thing about Tibbs, that no matter what you think about him as a coach, he brought us back to relevancy, and good relevancy, because we're always going to be relevant, right, Stephen? The Knicks are always going to be relevant for good or for bad,
for better or worse, right?
It was for good for these last 5 years, so I give him a lot of props for that. But whoever could develop, I know Johnny Bryant at one thought was supposed to be potential, but now it's kind of shifted to maybe a more established coach. So, and I know Jason Kidd has had some with not playing young guys, but he also had Luka, and Kyrie, so I can understand you're not playing young guys.
He's pretty young. So,
Luka's still young, I know we're aging him, and he's probably like 24, 25 years old, But see, I did what I said before, but we'll see. I just think this might be the most important hire that we've had in a long, long time. Because I feel like we had to make this pivot. But this is either going to help us get to that goal of finally winning a championship for the first time in 53 years, or set us back. And I feel like you had to make this move because you really felt like he couldn't get you to the next step, and you're so close. So you got to be able to capitalize on that. And listen, the Raptors did it 6 years ago with when they fired Dwayne Casey, he was a coach of the year. And obviously they got Kawhi too, and that helped them win a championship. So Fingers crossed, Steven. Fingers crossed.
Let's do it.
So all right, Knicks. I mean, the 50th pick. There's not a lot of Knicks fans are going to get excited over this pick. But who are some names that you could potentially see that can maybe help them out with the 50th pick?
So the first name that I'll throw your way is, I feel like there's probably going to be something happening with the center position in New York. I don't know who. I don't know when. And I know Huck Party is decent.
Solid,
but not someone you want to be afraid to draft over, especially with a second round pick. A guy who I think would be really good in New York, kind of in a similar to a Mitch Robinson type role, would be Dylan Cardwell out of Auburn. I think that he would be good. He was the center, played alongside Janai Broom, so Janai could kind of do more on the perimeter. But Cardwell, dude, he's very simple game. He is huge. He'll set screens. He will run to the rim. He is like the type of dunking big that makes you think of like a JaVale McGee type big man dunker, right? Like he'll throw down. I think that he would be a fan favorite if he ever played in New York, just because his personality, like he's very expressive. And he will let you know when he does something good, and he'll let you know that he disagrees if he does something wrong. Which I think would fit.
He's a New Yorker then. He's a natural New Yorker.
He's a natural New Yorker, for lack of a better word. But I think that just the experience that he had playing in Auburn, a very well coached team, a lot of talent around him, did all the garbage man dirty work, like dive on the floor type big man. Like I think that
Knicks fans would love that. They love that type of player, that blue collar type of player.
I think that he would be a very real possibility there. Some other names. I think, look, Peyton Sandford didn't have like the best year this year at Iowa, especially as a shooter, but historically, like his shooting numbers are ridiculous. I could see him coming in and being just like a reliable floor spacer in the mold of like a Sam Hauser or a Sam Merrill, who I know is like your guy.
I'm so happy he's doing good now.
I know, man. I know that's your boy, but I think that Peyton Sandford could be that type of a player. Will Richard is getting a lot of buzz, the Florida Gator. I don't know if he would be there, but if he is available at 50, Chris, this might be like the most ideal New York Knick that you could get at that spot. He reminds me a lot of Danny. He reminds me so much of Danny Green because he's shorter than he plays, but he is like a dogged defender. He's a fantastic 3-point shooter. He's got connective playmaking chops. I just like he will go in and do a job just like he did in Florida. So if I had to leave you with some names, and I'd be remiss, if we didn't bring up the aforementioned Eric Dixon, just because one, he's talented. Two, it would be funny just to keep the Villanova Knicks thing going. But he's super productive dude, like can score inside, can score outside, shows some real versatility on the defensive end. I loved watching him. He was one of the guys that I actually got to watch when I went to the Portsmouth Invitational Tournament. You could tell like that he played at Villanova because he was just out there communicating, settings, like doing all the winning type stuff, right? So I think if I had to give you, I could go all day long on this, Chris, you know me, but if I had to give you like a list of 4 realistic prospects that could be available at 50 that I think would fit New York's identity, I would give you those names.
Yeah, I did a space maybe a few days ago, and I brought up Eric Dixon, and a lot of people were interested in him because obviously fairly local-ish, Villanova, not too far from here in New York. So, and a lot of people, he was on TV a lot, and people would ask me about him. I just say, man, he's efficient, crazy efficient, like at all 3 levels, and obviously a lot of experience, and obviously playing at a good program at Villanova. Some defensive things he had to work on, but he has he has a Julius Randle type of frame, and at times he's like, very boxy and strong. And there's sometimes his offense, you're like, that's very Julius Randle like, and he has range too. Like he could shoot it from deep too.
Ridiculous range,
ridiculous range. So like that's someone people were like, I would like him. Obviously he's an older, but like I said, that doesn't it's not a big of a factor as it once used to be. And obviously, with all the guys coming, you're not really worried about that. You're trying to get someone who can potentially, play right away for you. So that, and then Will Richard, I love all the Florida guys.
Yeah,
I love all the Florida guards.
We're going to talk about another one that is.
And we're going to talk about one, and like I said, that one we're going to talk about. I was going to write.
He won't be available.
He won't be there, and it hurts me because we were just talking about it in the Knicks fan TV chat, and I was like, yo. And he won't be there. We'll talk about him. But there, some interesting, like I said, the Knicks, like I said, it's the 50th pick, so you're not going to get too excited about it unless you're me. I'm probably the only Knicks fan. You'll be excited with me and you. But it's funny because I said I'll
be excited about your undrafted two-way guys that y'all pick up. Like we'll geek out about all of them, man.
I would be in the chat there talking, and they'd be like, "Why are you getting excited about this guy?" I'm like, "No, you have to he's good. He could be a steal. He's got to let him play." And I'm like, "No, Tibbs is not there no more, so we might be able to play some of these guys." So, no, some interesting names. Dylan Caldwell is an interesting big, definitely got Payne Sanford. Another interesting player, can shoot. The numbers I think he'll be better, potentially at the next level. So, yes, definitely some interesting names for the Knicks with the 50th pick. But let's talk about some sleepers, some guys that you really like. Like I said, we kind of teased a little bit about one of those guys, but we got three names that we're going to talk about as sleepers. So, Stephen, let's talk about three sleepers that you really like that people need to know more about.
So, I was actually just tickled to death whenever I looked up this first player's numbers because I have him 12th on my board, and I know that is not where consensus has him. As a matter of fact, our mutual friend Corey, he does the draft rankings where he takes every reputable consensus board, boils them down together, and ranks people based on literal consensus from the Athletic, the Ringer, so on and so forth, right? He ranked 20th on their average. I have him 12th, and that's Rasheer Fleming, the kind of combo forward big man out of St. Joseph, junior. Barefoot, he measured 6'8.25", 232 pounds. He'll be about 21 years old. Chris, 7'5.25" wingspan. Wingspan. Insane.
And Stephen, before you go, I know we get very enthralled with wingspans, right? But a 7'5" wingspan, that's different. That's
on
different.
A 6'8" frame.
On a 6'8" frame, exactly.
That's stupid. He's also, Chris, 9'1.5" standing reach. Just standing still. Can almost touch the rim.
I wish.
Right? At 6'8", man, that's stupid. I really like him a lot. I think what people have a hard time with him is projecting the role. I think it's pretty clear, right? He's long and he's strong. The measurements were huge for him because I think that he can give you some versatility in the front court, right? He projects to be a good play finisher, but I think the bigger questions are going to come with the handle and even the decision making, which was okay. He only had a 0.8 assist to turnover ratio. So the questions come with, can you trust him to have the offense flow through him? But in my opinion, Chris, even if he struggles in that regard, he's so efficient. He's such a good defender, man. He had a 4.9 block percentage, a 2.6 steals percentage. And if you don't care about that, just listen to this. Everyone knows that stocks, right? That's steals and blocks put together. This dude had 103 stocks to only 88 fouls committed. So on defense, he had 103 stocks and fouled only 88 times, right? That's a good ratio.
It's discipline. That's very good discipline.
That's a good ratio. He did grow into a legit three-point shooter this year, which I don't think got enough buzz. He shot 39% on over 8 attempts per 100 possessions, which is really, really good, especially for his position. Synergy, he shot 43% on 58 open three-point shots, Chris. And then when he was guarded on 101 guarded three-point shots, he shot 36.6%. That's very good, man. So I'm looking at this guy who can rebound, was in the 95th percentile as a cutter, the 90th in transition, the 76th in putbacks, the 71st as a roller, and the 62nd as a spot-up guy. I'm like, how in the world does this dude like in late first, early second round range on some really smart people's board? Like where I see him ranked, it makes me feel like I don't know what I'm doing for ranking him as high as I do. Like I have him in my like over some really popular names. Like I'll put it to you that way. Like I have him in a range with CMB and Thomas Sorber, like just underneath like Cedric Coward and you know, names like that. So I love him, and I think he's a sleeper in the sense that like yes, everyone knows like who he is.
Yeah.
But people are sleeping on how talented this dude is and how well his game figures to translate to the NBA.
Yeah, like I just feel like he's going to be good. Like how good is, but I just think he's going to be good. Like his floor is really high. Like his floor is really high. Like I think he could be like even like a Nas Reed type. Like I don't know why I keep having that vision, but like, and I'm not big on
the handle of Nas, right?
Like I see like a Nas Reed. So like Nas Reed is a knockdown shooter. Like I could see Rasheed Fleming being that type of player. If that's what he is, that's a really good player. That guy's going to get $25 million on the market this offseason. You know, so that's a really good player.
Even if he's Obi Toppin, like you still pick that player at 12, right? Like,
yeah, you would take Obi. Yeah, exactly. Obi Toppin's making what? 15, 20 million, like, and he's a big piece in the rotation for Indiana.
He's in the finals. Yeah.
He's in the finals, man. He helped them win game 1 with 5-6 threes, you know?
Yep.
And Rasheed might be is probably a better defender, way better defender than Toppin is already. And Toppin's been in the league for 5 years. So you get that. Yeah, he's someone where I've seen it's crazy because I feel like in the beginning of the like draft process, like maybe after March Madness stuff, like he was a hot name, and then he cooled off. Because I remember hearing like top lottery buzz. I was like, okay, and then he felt like like you said, the consensus. Every mock I've seen of late, it's in the 20s, you know, late 20s. People kind of died out on him, but I'm like, no, he should be in that lottery range because I mean, you watch his game and you're like, and then I always feel like, all right, when you see the stats, all right, stats can lie. And then you're like, all right, how does the stats match the game film?
Yes.
You know, and then you watch the game film, you're like, oh, okay, yeah. It matches. And then you see you know, obviously the frame, the 7'5" wingspan, you know, on a 6'10" frame, and you're like 6'9" frame, you're like, okay, yeah. This kid's gonna be good. Like he could fit anyway. There's players that need to be on a certain team to fit. Even some of the higher end parts, like there's some of the guys who might go top 5 that I'm like, if they go there, I don't know if they're gonna have success. They got to go to a specific team. With him, I feel like, hey man, you go anywhere, I think he's gonna fit perfect.
Yeah, so I'm with that, man. I'm with that.
Right. Who's your next guy?
All right, next guy. We talked about him earlier. We teased him. He might be my like literal favorite prospect in this class, and that's Elijah Martin out of Florida. The guard, redshirt senior, 6'1.5", barefoot, which was a great measurement for him. A lot of people were nervous about that. 208.5 pounds, will be 23 years old around draft night. 6'7.5" wingspan, so another +6 wingspan here with our boy Elijah, which is huge for him, right? And 8'3.5" standing reach. Or Chris, I have him 30th on my board as someone that loves him, right? Because I understand that there are ways that this doesn't work. Like I get that because he's an undersized guard. Yeah. But dude, you might have a hard time finding a bigger fan of him outside his mom. Maybe.
I love him.
Like, where do you got him?
I have him in that range too.
Okay.
Yeah, I know he's probably a lot lower on most people's board. He's probably in that 40 to 50. I've seen him even lower than that. I don't know. I watch him. I see a guy who's an absolute dog. He's athletic. He's strong. You know, you just watch him in the last 3 games of the tournament, and he's he's guarding people. He's locking up people. Like, what was it? I remember there was a game he played against Mark Sears, and Mark Sears is an All-American. Locked him up, put him in the blender. You know, so like you just watch.
Get out of here.
The hot Pettiford guarded to hot Pettiford was locking him up.
Denver Jones, get out of here. Yeah.
I love him.
Yeah,
I don't care. I may be, like I said, you have him. I'm cool with having him there. And if I'm wrong, but I don't know. It feels right. I feel like he's going to be a good player.
I got a chance to interview him, man. And like,
yeah. I was about to mention that too. You got to interview him too.
Yeah, and like my favorite story about him come when I think it was like late in the conference tournament or like right before the NCAA tournament. Like Elijah got together with like one of the student managers and was like, "Hey, can you help me with a project?" They're like, "What's that?" He's like, "I want to get a picture of where everybody came from before they played at Florida," right? And that included like Walter Clayton Jr., who I was getting buzz about from Brandon Pajemski back when he played against, Walter Clayton at Iona, right? Like he's got pictures of like where everybody used to play before they got to Florida, and it was like, never forget where you came from and why we're here. Like he was like such a mature emotional leader on a team that went and won a NCAA championship. But the thing about him, man, is like even at FAU, where he helped that team go to the Final Four the year before at Florida, he played like the 3 and the 4. Like that's how athletic he is. He played in the front court on a Final Four team. He just makes winning plays. You talked about like the tournament. He had like 3 rebounds against Auburn, which, okay, sure, like that's an all right number. But find me 3 more important rebounds in the game. You can't. Like he just like steps up and knows how to make those type of plays. You talked about his athleticism. He had 29 dunks on the year. 9 of them came in the half court, Chris, at under 6'2", right? He had a 38-inch vert, which tied for 11th in the combine. That ranked over guys like Trey Johnson and Jeremiah Beers. He was 10th in the 3-quarter sprint. He shot better on side threes than the combine than names like Cooper Flagg, Cedric Coward, Ace Bailey, Kaspar Siakashonis, Will Riley, and Cam Jones. He's a good rebounder for his position and height. He had a 4.5 offensive rebound percentage and a 10.8 defensive rebound percentage. He's improved as a shooter. He shot 35% on over 11 attempts per 100. That's ridiculous numbers, right? And if you want to look at the open three-point jumpers, he shot 38.4% on those. And then even threes off the bounce, he connected on almost 36%. He's not like a lead guard, which is kind of like the problem with projecting him because he's got a decent handle, but he's not going to break anyone down off the dribble. And he's probably not going to run like a lot of pick and rolls, but he makes good decisions. But you talked about him being a dog, dude. Like he guards up the lineup. Like names that you would think that he has no business trying to defend, he does. 2.7 steal percentage, and then back to the stocks versus fouls committed game, Chris. 66 stocks, and for a guy who's known for like the toughest defensive assignments for Florida, he only had 54 fouls the entire year, Chris, against all the names in the SEC that he guarded, right? Like,
and that's the thing, SEC guards, like elite, high-level SEC guards.
Forwards, too. Like, big dudes didn't foul him. Yeah, that's insane.
That's impressive. I love him. I love him. He's grown on me. By the week, he's grown on me. I don't know. I got him locked in. I think I would take him into the first round.
I'm close to some people in his camp, dude. I'll put it to you like this. A lot of the teams that play in like the Midwest really love him. And based on what I'm hearing, I would be surprised if he goes past pick 44. Like, that's what I would be shocked if he fell that far. But I'll tell you, like a lot of teams in the upper 30s want him because look at the playoffs, right? Everyone wants to copycat the playoffs.
Exactly.
The Pacers and the Thunder both have guys who are like below 6'4", like in terms of height, but they have such high motor at the guard positions. And they fly around the court and they rebound and they defend and they can hit the occasional 3-point shot. Like even TJ McConnell, like isn't like the most knockdown 3-point shooter. Like he's below 35% for his entire career, but he plays on winning teams because of his effort and hustle. Like you mean to tell me that Elijah Martin can't do some of what we're watching in the playoffs right now? Like, come on.
I'm with you 100%. Yeah. I think he's another big winner of this draft with all these guys going back to school. I think he's going to be a big winner. Like I said, I would be shocked. I would be shocked if he's past 45. Like he should be a top 45 pick at minimum. I think he should. I think he's a first round pick, but I'd be shocked if gets past 45. Like he's that good of a player.
I'm with it. Yeah, man. Like I want to put him higher, but at some point I got to be like, am I just fanboying right now? Or
Yeah. I think we've learned from that. You know, sometimes when you love a guy so much and you don't want to, you know, and then it's like, but he's good.
Like there were signs, you know.
Yeah. All right. Who's your last sleeper?
Last sleeper. This is not a popular name, but I have him 33 on my board. Hunter Salas out of Wake Forest. He's like a combo guard, wing, perimeter player type guy. Was a senior. Barefoot measured 6'3" 3/4. So you're looking at a guy like nearing 6'6" when he's wearing tennis shoes. Only 181.4 pounds, which kind of like is a detractor because he's always been kind of like slight of frame his entire college career. About 22 years old, 6'10" wingspan. Chris, another wingspan guy here. That was not intentional. Like I did not pick these guys because of their wingspan, but 8'4.5" standing reach. Like last year, Chris, this dude was getting like late first round, early second round considerations, right? And if you look at what happened this year, it's subtle. It's like super subtle because their roster is largely the same, but they lost Andrew Carr, who was great for their team. He underperformed at Kentucky, but he was great for their team. He was like another pressure point within the offense that Wake Forest could go to and trust. They lost Andrew Carr. They didn't really replace him with anybody. And the brunt of everything fell on, Hunter Salas's somewhat slender shoulders. Let me contextualize it like this. Last year, Wake Forest ranked 40th in three-point efficiency, which is pretty solid, like 40th in all of college basketball. Chris, let me ask you this. Where do you think they ranked this year?
They weren't good, so it's got to be pretty low. Let me give you. Let me say.
Yeah, just guess.
180.
Try 359th.
Oh my, Stephen! There's only like 360 teams.
I think there's only 350, and somehow nine high schools did better than
the online schools. University of Arizona, they're worse than them.
Dude, I'm telling you. But like in all seriousness, like last year, he went from 40% from deep on over.
I know his 3-point dipped a lot.
It went to 28% this year, right? And you could say, well, look at Gonzaga, but also look at the fact that Hunter Salas was like, all you had to do was game plan against him. Everything else falls apart for Wake Forest, right? He was insane, right? So and I'll put it to you like this: when he had open 3-point shots this year, he still shot 37% this year.
Okay,
so
that's all right.
I think, dude, seriously, the Wake Forest context was very not good, and that's just one example. Like just pointing to the 3-point shots, right? Beyond that, Salas still had 22 dunks on the season, by the way, with a decent free throw rate of 32. He scored on almost 55% on his twos, which grades very high, and 80% from the line. So there's still touch indicators. He was 74th percentile at the rim and in the 59th on his mid-range jumper. So there's still there's a heartbeat still in that offense somewhere, despite the poor 3-point shooting from the entire team, right? And he didn't turn the ball over very much either, right? And you look, he was in the 75th percentile on pick and roll sets, including passes. He was in the 83rd percentile on handoffs. He was in the 71st operating in isolation. And again, still with poor 3-point shooting numbers, he was in the 60th percentile, according to Synergy, on spot ups, right? So athletically, a freak, had a 37.5-inch max vert right behind Elijah Martin. And that showed on defense where he almost had a block percentage as a guard of 2, which is insane. And then a 2% still percentage. The biggest knocks against him, man, is like Wake Forest was ugly. And you can say, yeah, you're the star of the team. That's kind of your fault. But like, Chris, are we really gonna put a 319 ranking swing and 3-point efficiency all at the feet of Hunter Salas? Like, because that's what it feels like. Like some people don't even want to draft him. And I'm like, my goodness,
which is
man.
Crazy. Like you said, like last year, people were like, yo, this guy might be like a top 20 pick. Like he's that good, and now you're not hearing much about him. Like I've seen boards where he's outside of the top 60, which is crazy to think that one point last year people had him as a first round top 20 pick.
Dude, and I get it, right? Like, I get it. There are some things that he regressed on, like, as a player. Like, I'm not sitting here and trying to prop him up as like some perfect player, but I will contextualize things. Like, I'm big. There's a difference between context and excuses, right? Wake Forest was like an absolute mess, and I saw what they looked like when they had a semblance of another playmaker on their team outside of him, and it was a lot better. Like, dude, seriously, we were like mocking him to Orlando, like in the late first round, and thinking that that's a great fit for Orlando.
They
it's
need
like
that scoring guard, yeah.
Exactly, and now like my man can barely get in second round conversations anymore. So I'm just like, there's someone still there's a good player still in there, right? He's too talented. He's too talented.
And that's the thing, and that's the risk you do. That's the risk you take when you go back to school, especially if you're an older type of prospect. Because, like you said, there was people talking about him in that at least at worst he was a top 40 pick. Definitely top back end of the first. And now we're not even hearing anything. Like, there's not a lot of mocks or any big boards that I see that he's in the top 60, which is crazy. And that, like I said, that's the risk you take. And like I said, he still can score, but obviously his efficiency numbers were a bit down. And
that's what you got to do in the NBA if you want to come off the bench. Is you got to score, and that's what he can do, man. Like,
he can do that. So like you said, there's still a good player in there. And that's the thing. Like, we see with so much, like, and that's where you meant context is very key, because we see you can see some players, and I'll get people who are not big into the draft, like, well, this guy shot 38% from the field. And I'm like, well, understand college basketball, and like, you got to watch this game. Who is he surrounded with? You have to understand that, because not everyone's playing. Not everyone's if you're at Duke, you're not playing with the top 5 pick, top 10 pick, number 1 pick here. You're not playing. If you're at a certain school, you may not even have a guy that's good enough to play overseas, on your team. So obviously context is very key. But also, you take a risk coming back, and this is happening. Like, sometimes when your stock is there,
side of coming back.
It's there's obviously benefits now you can get some coin, right? But you got it. If the main thing is still the NBA, you have to still put that in perspective. Like, all right, I still got to focus on that. And if that's the case, if you don't hear it's going to be crazy to think that his name might not be called drafted
when we get drafted.
Just the year before, he might have been there. He might have been in the Barclays Center, and get the Shake Adam Silver's hand. And then that journey is now it's a lot tougher. Now that journey, now you gotta fight through summer league, to get a roster spot. Hopefully you can get a 2-way or something. But the road's a lot harder. But we'll see. He's still a very talented kid and he can score. Wake Forest. Listen, I know their record indicates they were good, but ACC was absolutely garbage. So that record is not what it looks like. They were not a good basketball team, So.
And I'll put it to you like this, man. He still had a BPM of like almost 5 on that team as like the dude. I don't know. Like, again, I'm not advocating that he should be like a top 20 prospect or anything like that. There's obvious reasons why he is where he is, but I think at some point, like, once you start getting to some names, like, come on, like Hunter Salas can't score like with these dudes, like,
exactly,
or better.
100%. And maybe he benefits with all these guys. Like I said, we just talked about guys, a bunch of guys, and everyone's gonna get a nice bump. There's gonna be guys that, like you said, that you have in your board, I'm on board, and all these top, drafted values that are going to get a huge bump simply because, somebody got to get a bump. Somebody got to get drafted at 45, 50, somebody, that maybe wouldn't have gotten drafted, but we're going to see a lot of those in this draft. But, man, Stephen, my man, always a pleasure, brother. That was a lot of fun. Like I said, I always love talking draft with you, buddy, man. That was a lot of fun. I talk about this a lot. There's not a lot of people in this that, like, I've met a lot of people and interviewed a lot of people, but there's not a lot of people who I'm like, that's my guy. Like, that's truly my guy. And I consider you one of those guys. Like, you're my guy, So, and like I said, we started off, and we said this before on podcast, but like an email.
Yeah.
A little,
No.
you sent me an email, and like I said, I was still getting into the, like, I just started doing a few podcasts, feeling good, you know, and you hit me up, and I said, yeah, let's do it. And ever since that podcast, we created a friendship and done a bunch of shows together. And, you know, to see your growth and what you've been able to do, you know, in this scouting world, and what you're doing with no ceilings, and you're interviewing these guys and that guys, I'm like, that's my guy, man. Like, I feel like a father. You know, I'm like, oh man, you know, we do, you know, it's really dope when you see people that you worked with have success. You know, like in a world where there's so much hate and people are haters and people, you know,
Too much, man.
too much of that, you know, sometimes you gotta be like, you know, I see you interviewing these guys like Elijah Martin and all these guys, you know, and you're at this tournament, you're at this event, and I'm like, that's hard work, bro. Like, and I was like, I saw you, like, you had just a couple followers, and now you're doing this. So I just want to give you your flowers, brother, because you've been, you know, and I will say I love you, man. You're like, you're like a brother to me, brother. So I appreciate everything you've done, you know. So like I said, always a pleasure talking to you, brother. Yeah,
man, and I owe a lot of. I still got a long way to go to get to where I want to be, right?
Mm-hmm.
I'm not gonna act like I've arrived, because we still got a long way to go to get what we want. But even to this point to where I'm at now, man, like a lot of what I have now is because of Off the Ball. Like, and I true wholeheartedly mean that, because I learned a lot just what networking is like with you guys, like structuring shows, like creating outlines for shows. Like I have an outline here that I've used for same format, Chris, that you probably have on. You probably still have copies of. Like I still run the same.
I still have those emails.
Yeah, like I run the same outlines that I've had from Off the Ball. You know, like just Off the Ball is where I met like the No Ceilings folks too. You know what I mean? And like. Off the Ball having a cachet to pull some No Ceilings folks in at that time was pretty big deal, man. So it's like, you know, like we've interviewed like a lot of big names at Off the Ball too. Like a lot of people who might not know what Off the Ball is, but they would be shocked with some of the people that have come through. You know what I mean? Like
we interview some heavy hitters too. Like and like that, and that's what I tell people all the time. Everybody wants to, you know, how do I make money? How do I do this? How do I do that, man? You just got to put in the work, man. Yeah. I started with a phone, and that was it. A phone. That was it. I was
in a garage in Washington, you know, recording for nobody, you know,
and you just got to keep putting out, and eventually, you know, you networking with the right people. And like I said, when we started Off the Ball Network, we weren't backed up by a major, this person, we're getting this network. No, we just worked, and then we were able to keep working, and it's like, oh, these guys are actually good. And then we got we had our podcast on a radio station, a big time radio station, not just any Stephen. We had it on a big time radio station.
Dash, you know? Yeah, I remember. Yeah.
Dash Radio, like remember, like we had our show on a radio, and then that led to, you know, getting this player on there, and then this college, and then it's like now other people are like, oh, we gotta listen to them, and then boom, and it leads to, you know, I'm doing stuff with Knicks Fan TV, which is one of the biggest Knicks platforms in the world. It's 100,000 subscribers. You know, you're doing stuff for New Things, maybe the most reputable, most, you know, most respected NBA. Like people like love what you guys do. You know, you guys are respected. Like every time I hear a podcast, and everyone's like, yeah, those guys that know cinema, man, I respect what you guys are. So like just to think, you know, like I said, we want to do more, right? Like there's always room to grow and stuff, but like to get what we got from where we started, dude. But that's teamwork too. We help, like I said, there's a lot of negativity, there's a lot of selfishness in this. But how many times did we text each other, email each other late at night? So can we do this? Yo, what do you feel about? And like, oh, maybe we should work on it. How do? And I learned from you, because you were I love the way you did your notes. I learned from you how to note take and stuff, you know, and we learned how to, you know, teach each other how to, you know, how to do a show, how to format a show and stuff. So
See You Sunday. My dad still talks to me about See You Sunday. He's like, you know, he's like, What's up with that, man? I love when y'all didn't see you Sundays. Like he still
Yeah.
asks me about see you Sundays.
Yeah. No, so people still ask me how you doing. You know, like I said, I always reference you whenever it comes to Halliburton. Like there's certain things I remember, like, oh yeah, Steven got me on this guy. Like, you know, and it's just, you know,
That was YouTube scouting too, man. Like we didn't have nothing. I'm just like watching
no.
YouTube stuff.
But
Like
we would have to try to see if I can get some clips from the. Oh, I heard of, you know, it would just, we would deep dive. We would have to find some stuff, but you know, it just shows you, like, if you work your tail off, you can do some things. You know, you could do some things, and man, you've done some great things.
I don't got the background that a lot of other people do at No Ceilings, dude. Like I love basketball. I'm a grinder.
Mm-hmm.
Like I'm not smart, but I'll work hard.
I always remember when you would do like some player profiles and you put them on the website. Those would be the biggest hits we would get on the web. I'd be like, yo, dude, you just did like 500 views on this one thing you did on the website for us, you know. And then I guess it just going and going and going, and then and you're doing your thing. But it's just it's dope. You know, we've been able to meet some cool people, and like I said, I'm glad you emailed me that day, bro. I'm glad you emailed me.
Man.
You know?
Who knows what happens, you know?
That's why I tell people that too, man. Everyone's afraid to reach out. Now, I don't want to be left on red. I don't want to. Hey, it could be scary, but if you just got to keep going, you never know. You meet
the
that
answers
right.
already know if you don't ask. You know what I mean?
Exactly. Right. They say that thing, right? If you don't ask, it's gonna be no. So you just ask and you see what happens. Like, and then you just never know. Like I asked Matt Babcock to come on the pod, but when I first started, boom, he said yes, and then it went on. So, but Stephen, my man, like I said, great show, sir. Man. We got into a lot of stuff. We talked about the Knicks 50th pick. So my Knicks fans, you know, chime in. You know, we got some interesting prospects for that 50th pick. We talked about 3 of his sleepers. We talked about the benefits from the NIL and the guys coming back who benefited the most. But Stephen, my man, before we sign off, tell the people where they can find you, any projects you got coming up.
And again, man, thank you so much for having me. Biggest thing y'all could do to support No Ceilings right now, if you haven't already, consider going and get the draft guide. It's $15 right now. So if you can afford to swing that, that really helps, because what we do with our stuff is it gets us to more events to give y'all more content, right? Like everything that we do is to just maximize how much more content we can give back, right? And one of the biggest kind of like cornerstones for backing No Ceilings is our draft guide. A lot of people have shared it. So if you've already got it, for like seriously from the bottom of all of our hearts, like we are genuinely like blown away from the amount of support that we've gotten on our guide this year. Within day one, we blew out all of our last year's sales, right? So big year for us. But if you want to support No Ceilings, that's how you do that. NoCeilingsNBA.com, where you can get free content. Like 90% of what we do is free. We do have some plus content. So if you want to be a No Ceiling Plus member, you get to be a part of the Discord, where you get to go hang out.
I'm a part of the Discord. It's you get a lot of information.
Well, I appreciate that. But you also get additional kind of paid content on the site too. You get a nice little discount for our draft guide when it does drop. So we try to give as much love to our No Ceilings universe at all possible. If you're interested in just following little old me, you can do that. Twitter is where I'm most active, at Stephen G Hoops. But Chris, man, again, I love you, bro. Seriously, if I'm president of the United States, I don't care, right? Like you ask me to come be on a show, like I will come and be on a show. So I will always be here for you, bro.
Man, I appreciate it, man. Like I said, you're doing tremendous work. You know, I'm proud of you, brother. Everything you're doing. You know, so like I said, it's worth it. All the stuff at No Ceilings, it's worth it. You know, we also live in a world where everything is subscription based, right? And you're trying to cost court. That's the one where I'm like, nah, I don't care if that's my last $10. Take it. That's worth it, because you get so much information. And like I said, it doesn't get overly complicated. They simplify and the aesthetics of it. You're gonna look at it and you're like, oh, this. You know, I remember having people who aren't even big and they're like, oh, that looks cool. That just looks like a comic book style. And like I said, Corey and
Tyler both. I can't take any credit for the way anything looks. Like if you read something that you liked, I might have had something to do with that. But if you like the way things look, that's all Corey and that's all Rucker on our team, man. And they and Nick and Austin are our editors. Like that was a labor of love for those 4 in particular, man. So a lot of credit goes to them. But the whole team wrote like shoot 300 some odd pages of content for y'all, and it's all broken up in magazine format. Like it took a lot of work, man, but we're proud of what we do. And again, like the paywall stuff, yeah, we acknowledge that it exists. Like we don't run from it, like, but we hate it, but we try seriously, literally everything that we can. Like it funds, like when I go to Portsmouth, like I get to stay at a place in Portsmouth.
I don't think people mind at all. And if it's good stuff and you're getting information, it's everyone wants value for their money, right? And not just saying that, but you guys give great, like tremendous value for what you guys give. So to me, like I told you, we're in a world of cost cutting, and you're trying to like, oh man, I got Netflix, HBO, this and that, cable, and I'm like, that I'm cool with. I don't mind that. No, I'm never going to cancel. That's fine. So to me, that shows how much great work you guys do and great effort, and you guys build a great team. So continue the great work, Stephen. Like I said, my brother, appreciate you, man. Make sure to follow me at Off the Ball Pod. Make sure to like, subscribe on the YouTube channel. Make sure to follow Stephen. All his links will be below in the description. Make sure to follow everyone at New Ceilings. And tomorrow, we're going to have James Barlow on the pod. We're going to get into more NBA draft stuff. His first time on the pod, so I'm excited to get him on. And he's another great mind.
One of the best ones out there. Like, I'll follow him. I love the work that the Barlows do, man.
The Barlows, the best brother scouts in the business. I don't know if there's any other brother scouts, but if you are, I'm sorry, that's the best brother duo in the business. But on that note, guys, be well, be safe, take care. Peace out.
Much love, y'all.